Peace, everybody, and welcome back to the Black Only News and Entertainment Network. So now we got the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself, Tom Homan, Pam Bondi, sending innocent people with no criminal record to an El Salvadorian prison. And then we got clowns like this DeVoy guy, DeVoy Dawkins, trying to justify Trump's mistake. I'm sure there's more than just one person over there in that prison in El Salvador that's innocent, that hasn't committed any crimes other than maybe crossing the border illegally. But a lot of those, even that cross the border illegally, have protections. They have due process. And if they're guilty of being a gang member, if they're guilty of any serious crimes, murder, rape, sex trafficking, anything like that, they should be deported with the quickness. And I wouldn't care if they went to an El Salvadorian prison, but not the innocent ones, not the ones that haven't committed any crimes over here. And then we have coons and Sambos trying to defend this bullshit for their master Donald Trump. Anyway, let's get into this first video here.
In today's video, a federal judge makes a massive mistake when he orders President Trump to return an MS-13 gang member. Also, the Supreme Court just handed Trump a massive victory, and another female athlete refuses to compete against a man in her sport. So let's start here.
Now, an Obama-appointed federal judge has just ordered the Trump administration to make immediate arrangement.
See, that was the first lie that came out of Fox News' mouth. Fake news. Obama did not appoint a judge. George W. Bush appointed this judge.
To return one of the more than 200 alleged gang members who were deported to El Salvador last month. The judge says that Kilmar Abrego Garcia's deportation was illegal because it was done without a judicial proceeding. A judge previously ruled that he could not be deported to El Salvador because of concerns that he would be a victim of gang crime. The administration recently said that his deportation was, quote, an administrative error, but insists that he is a member of MS-13. Unclear right now how he is going to be returned since he is now in El Salvador's custody.
So Stephen Miller had this to say.
So what I would like to know is, if they know that he's not, that he doesn't have any criminal record, any history, what could the clerical error be? I guess the clerical error would be that they know that he didn't commit any crimes, that he is not a gang member, even though they're trying to say that he is a gang member. What was the clerical error? Anyway, let's continue.
In regards to this announcement, Marx's judge now thinks she's the president of El Salvador, and he makes a good point because the White House press secretary just said this as well. Quote, we suggest the judge contact President of El Salvador because we are unaware of the judge having jurisdiction or authority over the country of El Salvador. And that's just...
No, she doesn't have the authority or jurisdiction over El Salvador, but she does here in America. She does in the courts here in America, and in this instance here, she said she wanted the prisoner returned. All Trump has to do is get on the phone, make a few phone calls, get a plane over to El Salvador, and get him the hell back over here to the United States. Again, he'll stand trial. If he's found guilty of a crime, he'll be sent back to El Salvador, I'm quite sure. But if he isn't guilty of any crimes, and I kind of think that he hasn't been or isn't guilty of any crime, that's why Trump and the rest of these clowns like Tom Homan and Pam Bondi, that's why they don't want him back over here in the United States, because he's going to be found not guilty, and then you have to start questioning even more of the people that are over in El Salvador's prison to get them back here to America to have them stand trial. And the Trump administration don't want to do that.
The Obviously, the reasoning that the Trump administration is going to run with here is like, okay, Judge, you could demand us to bring this criminal back, but we don't control whether or not El Salvador will allow us to do that. So
Bullshit. If Trump got on the phone right now and said, I want him ready to go in an hour, the president of El Salvador will have that prisoner ready to go in an hour. They'll be picking him up in the morning, flying him back. Stop the bullshit, man. This DeVore darkens. Shoeshine Boy darkens. Sambo darkens.
it's going to be interesting how this actually unfolds. And for your own situational awareness here, the Justice Department will appeal the order to the Richmond-based 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, according to a court filing after the hearing.
Obviously, this story is just breaking, but your reaction to this news and how this will be handled?
Well, the American people should know who this individual is. He's not some Maryland father, as the mainstream media will make you believe. He's actually a member of MS-13 and was involved in human trafficking. It's unbelievable, the framing of this. Whether this man is in El Salvador or in a U.S. detention center, he should be locked up. And people should also know.
Well, then, if that's the case, Becky, get him back over to the United States and let him stand trial. Prove that he's a member of MS-13. Prove that he's into human trafficking, as you say. Well, I'm still trying to figure out what the clerical error was. That's what I want to know. Why nobody clarifying on what this paperwork error was? Anyway, let's get back into it.
Who MS-13 is? It is a gang that rapes, maims, and kills Americans for sport. They should not be on U.S. soil, and any media outlet who tries to make him a darling or a victim should really be ashamed.
So we know where the Trump administration stands in regards to this individual. They claim he's full MS-13. The lawyer claims he is not. Democrats claim he is not, and that this was a mistake. Now, the White House did acknowledge that a mistake was made administratively, which led to his deportation. So I guess we'll have to see how this shakes out, given that they...
Well, then that should be enough to get him back over here then. If it was a clerical error, then you got to get him back over here, correct the errors, let him stand trial. If he's guilty, he'll be found guilty. If he's innocent, he'll be found innocent. I think the Trump administration and this DeVore Darkins clown, that's what they fear the most. They're going to get him back over here. They're going to prove that he is not a gang member, that he is not a part of MS-13. And then they're going to have an even bigger embarrassment. And then he's going to start talking about the people that are over there that also are probably innocent. See, Trump didn't care. He just wanted to deport as many as he can. He said he wanted to deport 20 million people. The way you do that, you just start scooping people up, regardless if they're guilty or not. Just scoop them up and send them out. El Salvador or wherever else you send them to.
Appeal this to the appellate court there. Now, even though this was bad news for the Trump administration today, they did get some great news from the Supreme Court, which actually sided with Trump in regards to him freezing funds for the Department of Education. Let's hear more on that right now.
Paula, we're apparently just learning about this in the last few minutes from the court. What's going on?
So this is significant because, as you said, this is really the first time that President Trump has gotten a win from the high court since he came back to the White House and has undertaken this expansive effort to reshape the federal government. Now here, the Supreme Court is allowing him to block $65 million in Department of Education grants meant for states to help with teacher shortages. Now, these grants were allegedly targeted because they contain some DEI initiatives.
Now, the Attorney General Pam Bondi did release a statement. Quote, today marks a significant victory for President Trump and the rule of law. The Supreme Court ruling vindicates what the Department of Justice has been arguing for months. Local district judges do not have the jurisdiction to seize control of taxpayer dollars, force the government to pay out billions, or unilaterally halt President Trump's policy agenda. Department of Justice attorneys will continue fighting to protect the executive branch from gross judicial overreach. And the reason why this case mattered.
Now Trump may have won in this instance, which I'm not surprised, but he lost when it came to holding funds, um, when he came to holding funds up for FEMA. When it came to FEMA, the judge told Trump he has to unlock those funds and get that money out to FEMA. But anyway, man, people like this dude here, this Devori Darkins, man, these people like that just all these goddamn Trump supporters, these coons. Anyway, thank you all for coming back to the Black Only News and Entertainment Network. Peace, take care, and be safe.